Welcome to Heroes First Podcast, sponsored by Fund the First, the nation's leading verified crowdfunding platform for first responders, military, and medical professionals. And now, your host, broadcasting from Long Island, New York, Robert Garland.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this episode of Heroes First Podcast. Each show, you will hear from a new guest that portrays excellence in the first responder, military, or medical professional field. If you are an active or retired member of the service, or even a family member or a friend, then this show is for you. Our podcast is also proud partners with the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network and the Law Enforcement Today Podcast Network. I would like to present to you our guest for episode 24 of this podcast series, Stanley Roberts. Stanley, absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, man, thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's great.
I really do.
This is the first time that I have a celebrity on the show.
Well, I don't know if I'm all that, but I'm a little bit of everything, I guess.
You're a celebrity in my eyes, Stanley. Celebrity in my eyes.
All right, I appreciate it.
A lot of great things. And I know we originally connected. I always like to talk about that on the show, how I originally connect with people. And ours, I believe, our story was through Clubhouse, right?
Our original connection was through Clubhouse,
Mhm.
and we ended up interacting back and forth, and turned out we had a few things in common. And I mentioned to you, and you kind of laughed. I said, I'm kind of a honorary police chief.
Mhm.
And you're like, what? Wait, what? And so I explained to you, and if you look, if I can see this from behind me, there are some of the plaques from LAPD and from different agencies of how I achieved that status. It was through hard work. It wasn't just through, somebody goes, hey, I like you, you're an honorary police chief.
That happens, though, sometimes.
It does, but not with me. It took a lot of work.
No, I know. You did a lot for the communities, everything that you do, and it's really great. And actually, let's dive right into that. You have a vast filming career, tons of TV, things that you've done with documentaries. Why don't we talk about that for a few minutes?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I just did something on my YouTube channel
Mhm.
about how I got to where I am today. And the title of it is how I was buck naked in sulfuric acid, and now I'm on TV. So it's like, wait, how does that even work? And
You always have your titles for stuff are great. I love it.
so I mean, I literally started by getting a job in TV in Salinas, California, and I always wanted to do TV, so that was my whole take on it. But fast forwarding, my first ride along was in 1990 with the Highway Patrol, and we were doing a thing on big rigs and how they were not safe. And the officer was CHP officer Mike Starr out of Monterey area, and we rode around and I just filmed all this stuff. I wasn't on TV; I was just recording it, and then I put together like a mini doc for the station in Salinas. Went from there to LA after getting help and a couple letters of recommendation. So in the process of doing that, I went to LA and did a bunch of pieces with Fox News out there, KTTV, before they went sideways. And, nowadays it's a little bit different, but back then it was actually the way they did news. And it was interesting because I got a letter of accommodation from, back then it was Daryl Gates, because that was around the same time of the Rodney King incident. And the story was about the dichotomy between law enforcement and how they dealt with the public, the poor, and the low income and the rich people. So, and we were showing that, and we did it tastefully. It wasn't a hit piece. So that's where it mostly started. And then as time went on, I ended up doing LAPD, the TV series. I did a little stint with cops. And one of the videos I did with LAPD was me in a crash. Funny story, because we were riding around all day trying to find what we call a rolling stolen. And it was a quiet day. Wasn't much happening. And we decided to go into a Jack in the Box. And they ran the MDT, which is you run the plates to run a plate. And the car in front of us, I never forget this, the license plate was CJ Blazer. And we ran it just because we were in line. What the heck? Guess what? That's the car that came back stolen.
Hit, pop, pop, pop.
So basically what that story is, we did that and we decided to do a traffic stop. But then, and if you watch the video, it's actually on my YouTube page. It shows the whole thing. It's pretty crazy how everything went down and how we prevented, we got into a crash, and what prevented me from flying through the front windshield, because I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So you can get an idea how things were going with that.
Jeez. Oh my goodness. I got to watch that video.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did a lot with LAPD TV series. I was there for a little bit of it, and I learned a lot of things like crime scene preservation. I worked with Vice. I worked with my favorite was door knocks with SWAT team at 6 in the morning. Even though I'm not an early bird, I had to get up at 4 a.m., be there ready for SWAT as they got geared up, shooting the whole thing. And then in some cases, they had more cars than they had officers.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually gave me a black and white to follow them in as we're heading to do a door knock. And for those who don't know what a door knock is, if you're in law enforcement, that's when we do a search warrant or an arrest warrant at 6 in the morning, because usually the bad guy is just now falling asleep around 3 or 4 or 5. So they're like in a deep sleep. So when the knock comes, you're disoriented. They go through the front door and they make everybody rest. That way everybody leaves safely. And that was a door knock.
So for any of our drug dealers out there, you now know how it operates. Please stand by.
Hey, I hate to break this to you, but they knew how to operate a long time ago.
Of course. We have, I was in narcotics. I served a lot of search warrants.
Yeah.
One of our shirts was 6 a.m. wake up call.
6 a.m.
We
and it usually starts with a bang.
Yep. We tack up at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you're hidden, 6 in the morning, they're in cuffs.
Yeah.
That works.
My favorite part of that though was there was always dogs in the building. And so the German Shepherds would get pepper sprayed, they'd take off. And the German Shepherd were gone. They're like, nope, I ain't got nothing to do with this. Since I was just minding my business. But the pit bulls would be like, do it again.
Oh yeah. I hate pit bulls. Oh my God.
They're like, I love that stuff. Do it again.
I hate those dogs. So
yeah.
I always, as a kid, I always watched Cops. I always watched the shows. It was fun. It was exhilarating. But then when I got on the job, I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And I thought about it for a while. I was like, how did they always catch such great stuff on TV? And you were one of those guys that did that.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
I'm about to break the secret down because reality TV is not always reality TV. All right. And people will be mad, but I'm going to tell you this secret. But so let's say you all of a sudden see a cop. So you see the story and the cop's like, yeah, we always have people that run when they see us. And, when they start running, we chase them. And then all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, some guy runs into the like, wait a minute, this guy is psychic. How did he know dude was going to run, right? Well, here's what happens. So we're riding along and, my camera's not even turned on at that point. And, we're looking for something. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And he jumps out the car, we go running. Well, guess what we missed? We don't have the beginning that says, I really like it when I could chase somebody. So then we just go back and re-record that part. And we talk it up and then we splice it together. And guess what? All of a sudden it's like, we talk about it, it happens, it's done. But the part that you don't know is like when we tell them, hey, okay, you have a mic on you. So anything you say can and will be used against you. This is what we're talking to the cop I'm riding with. So turn your mic off when you don't want, when you don't want us to, like if you go to the bathroom, don't leave your mic on. Sure enough, they go to the bathroom, or it may be a male cop or a female cop, and you hear zip, and then they, or they're talking smack about us in the car. I'm like, we can hear you.
Yeah, those
so we don't tell them we can hear them. Yeah. We don't tell them. We just come back and we know. All right, so you hate me, huh? All right, fine. You know what's going to happen? I'm gonna make you look bad now. I'm just kidding. We don't do that. That's a joke.
All you got to do is release the footage of them going to the bathroom. That's it.
Exactly. Just play the audio.
Just outtakes. Oh my God, that'd be great.
Dude, what did you eat?
Yeah, you could have an whole documentary on just that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We don't go down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Film in front of a live studio porta potty.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's great. Yes, those shows are awesome. They all used to be so great. And what they canceled Cops, right? They took it off the air.
Well, here's what happened. So the biggest misconception is that Cops have been canceled. That's not true. The answer is they've been canceled in the United States.
Oh.
They're still shooting them in the United States, but they're airing in other countries because we had that whole anti-cop thing that came up after what happened in that other state. We don't want to get into that because that starts getting into the whole political thing, and I don't do politics. But when they canceled that, they also canceled Live PD, and
that was the other one, Live PD. Yeah.
So So remember, though, there was also Real Stories of the Highway Patrol. Remember that one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of really good, interesting cop shows. Now, Real Stories of the Highway Patrol was basically reenactments in most cases, although in some cases they had real traffic stops.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a show, which I started, it was called People Behaving Badly, which I started in the Bay Area. And just for the record, it was never supposed to be cops. It was never supposed to be LAPD Live or PD Live or LAPD TV series. It was a throwback from when I first started doing Ridealongs, like in Salinas, where I would go out. And the original concept was to never identify me as a person, just to be out there and this invisible guy that tells you what's going on. Until I came up to the station one day and my face was plastered everywhere. And by then it was too late. So, and then there was a big battle over, well, it wasn't even a big battle. Let me go backwards. I was there for, I was at the stage for 20 years, but I was hired as a photographer. Mm-hmm. So I was never really, my job classification changed, but I was never under any kind of contract. So it was like more of a, you're a photographer, now you're a VJ, a video journalist. And I came up with an idea for People Behaving Badly. And then when I left, they decided they wanted to keep it as a way to negotiate me to stay, and it didn't work. So then I changed the name to Caught Misbehaving, and that's the name I have now.
Mr. Badly Productions. Love it.
Yeah, so I created Mr. Badly Productions so I can have an umbrella of different. Mm-hmm. We have the reason why aliens never invaded Earth, which is a COVID spinoff from Caught Misbehaving, because I couldn't be out there talking to people with getting COVID. So you had to find a new way to do it. And so I have always had a creative mind. If you put me in a room I always wanted to be a writer, or like a sitcom writer, because I have some of the craziest humor in the world, and I can come up with something on the spot. My better half thinks that I joke too much, but I don't think I joke enough.
I love the names that you come up for things are incredible.
Yes. So we have another one called Millennial Boom.
But what's the meaning of it?
Well, because I'm a boomer and she's a millennial. However, we switched it where I'm the millennial and she's the boomer. Why? Because I am more tech savvy and she is not. So she's more of a boomer mentality, and I have more of a millennial mentality because I'm really high tech. I got the whole thing going. I got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those different social media platforms. And my Facebook is literally at 151,000 people. Where they came from, I have no idea. I woke up one morning, they all just showed up. It's like you have a party at your house and everybody shows up and they won't leave.
You put out great content. I got to hand it to you. I love your Twitter stuff, and I always want to retweet stuff, but I got to stay very PC with everything that I do.
You got to be careful with my stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I tell people that it's there for your enjoyment. Now, here's the funny part is I believe that I have, if you add everything together for the amount of followers I have, it's not really a lot. It's like 200,000, 250,000 people. Mm-hmm. But I believe that of the 250,000, 150,000 of them are cops because they just watch. Or there are a bunch of people waiting for me to mess up so they can go, I told you.
Told you, this guy messed up. See?
Yeah, I can't wait for him to mess up. One of these days he's going to mess up and I'll be right there saying, I knew it. It's been like 10 years and they still waiting for me to mess up.
Those are haters. Haters, they never go away. They're always.
But haters are fans in disguise.
Yes, absolutely. They're jealous.
Yes.
It's a jealousy thing. That's all it is.
I don't mind the jealousy. The only problem I have though is that everybody goes, you know what? It's like you said, you have great content. Oh my God, you're really good. Oh my God, you're funny. Oh my God, you are like a legend. And I'm like, so I went to the grocery store and I said, hey, look, I don't have any money, but I got good content. I'm a legend. I'm funny. Can I take this groceries home with me? They go, you missing one thing. I go, what? You ain't got no money. Oh, man.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, Stanley, did you ever want to become a cop?
You know what? That's the question that has always been coming up. They go, you're just a cop who wanted to be a cop and didn't want to be a cop. And the truth is, I actually flunked the psych test for Highway Patrol.
Really?
Yes. And so wait, before you think about it, here's what happened. This was back in the early 80s. I applied for Highway Patrol. My uncle was a Monterey County Sheriff Deputy. He was in the Army at Fort Ord, and he's the one who got me to California from Philadelphia. and he was a deputy for the deputy sheriff sergeant. So he said, "Come on out here. You can find a good job out here." He said, "Why don't you apply for law enforcement?" My job was to do TV. Always wanted to do television. So I got to Salinas, and I decided to apply for California Highway Patrol because I get state access. So I took everything. I passed everything with flying colors, 100% on my everything. And then they told me to go and do a psychological with this psychologist. And the guy looked at me and he said, count backwards from 100 to 7 by sevens.
What?
And I looked at him and I go, "Are you crazy?" I think that's what flunked me. I said, "Who can do that? Nobody's going to be able to count backwards from 100 to 0 by sevens. Nobody's." I said, "No, I'm not doing it." And I refused to do it. So I failed the psych test. Now, here's where I appealed it and went to see another psychologist who said, "Hey, why did you flunk the last one?" And I told him the same thing I told you. And he says, "Oh yeah, that's pretty hard." So he said, "Okay, I tell you what, name me the all the presidents in reverse order." And you know what I did? I recited every single president in reverse order up into the current president, who at that time was Ronald Reagan.
Really?
His mouth fell open. He goes, "Wait, no one's ever been able to do that." I didn't mention to him that I had a photographic memory. I just really suck at math. So, see, the other guy never asked me, "How are you with math?" Because I told me, "You know what, dude, I suck at math. That's why they make calculators for people like me."
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But when you show me something, I will look at it and I can tell you every fine detail of that thing for a few. But that was a long time ago. Now I have I need new film because they've changed up from digital to all analog, and I'm still analog.
All the tech, but still analog. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I had to take my stuff to Photomat and wait for it to come back now.
Oh man.
So that's what happened.
Okay. I mean,
so
listen.
I guess you're going, wait, but you passed. So why didn't you continue? Well, back then there weren't a whole lot of brothers in Highway Patrol. So when I finally came for the background check, they looked for anything they could find to tell me why I didn't qualify to be a Highway Patrol. And they found something I didn't even know I did. They said I transposed my social security number. And so it looked like I was attempting to get two different social security things. It was a simple transpose, I transposed the number on an application. So, they went through major detail. They talked to friends I didn't even know I had.
Wow.
And then they said I transposed the number. So because of that, I was disqualified. It gave the impression that I was trying to, I was trying to use two social security numbers, which for me wasn't an option. I was Mr. Goody Two Shoes.
It's a good thing that I didn't get hired when you were trying to get on, because my investigator, when I was going on, Facebook had just come out, and my profile picture was me wearing a diaper. So she had a field day with that, a complete field day. And it was a costume. I was wearing a diaper. Who cares? She was, oh my God, that was something else.
Well, what's funny is that all my friends and one of the things they brought up in my background was that all my friends were cops. So Philadelphia, cops, cops, uncle, nephew. My if you look up Ernest Williams, he was the first Black police chief in Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh wow.
So all the references I had were law enforcement because I really was a goody two shoe. And they assumed that because of that I was trying to hide something because everybody I put in was a cop, but that's all I knew.
Right.
So, I got disqualified, but then I ended up in TV, which I enjoy because I can do, it's the best of both worlds for me because I know law enforcement back in my hand. I know it. I know what they do, how they do it. Their, the tactics, what they do, how they do it, when they do. I even know when I'm going to be pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
Even before I'm pulled over, I even know what, they're behind me and go, "Oh, he's going to change lanes, I'm going to change lanes." So to know if I'm going to be pulled over is I change lanes. Right. And if he changes lanes, I go, "Okay." So I change lanes again. And if he changed lanes again, I said, "Okay, I'm about to be pulled over."
It's happening.
And then sure enough, so I had a system for knowing, and I used to get pulled over a lot. But you know what I mentioned about being pulled over?
Why?
Huh?
Why were you getting pulled over so much?
Driving while black. I was in Salinas, dude. Come on.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It wasn't. It was. That's literally what it was. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't run a red light. I never got a ticket. They just pull me over and where you going, what you doing, why you here, do you live here? And I would be very polite. And in one case, I got pulled over by Monterey County Sheriff deputy with a buddy of mine. We were going to Monterey, and he looks at my driver's license. He goes, "Do you know Ralph Roberts?" And I go, "Yeah, that's my uncle." He goes, "Oh my God, I went to school with him." And he goes, "You have a good day." So he was this academy instructor or something.
But you must have a stack full of PBA cards, DEA cards, all those type of things. Anyway.
Well, I have so many cards that I have them in boxes, and and the truth is, by the time I remember I have the cards, they've already retired.
Right, of course.
So I call, in the life as a officer for working is usually around 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
After 20 years, they move on to something different. Or the best part is they get full pension, and then they go work for another agency. So they're getting a whole paycheck that just shows up, and then they get another whole paycheck that just shows up.
Wild. A lot of guys do that. I never understand it. I never understand it.
It's incredible. I mean, it's you know what? I use it like the same example of people right now. How people are like overbidding for houses for about $1 million. It's because they know that they got to pay a certain amount of taxes. So like the overbidding on houses, it's because they know that they're going to have to pay what's it called, a capital gains tax on that money if they cash it in. But if they invested in something else, the capital gains goes away and they're just paying interest on the house.
Yep.
So the same thing with these guys is they've made all their money doing the hard work for 20 years, and they go somewhere else to make money, and that extra money is their money, and the other money is tax money. So it makes sense. Yeah. It just seems like a lot of work.
Like I know there's a guy in my office. He just retired, 20 years. In shape guy. He did a lot in the NYPD. Detective and everything. He's going down to Florida right now to become a patrol cop.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. What are you doing? It's bizarre to me. It's bizarre.
And Florida has no income tax, I believe. So you get money hand over fist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Just don't drive down Highway 95 with a trunk full of weed.
Well, they don't care about weed anymore. That's okay.
Shh, don't you believe that?
Well, let's talk about San Fran for a second. You bring up San Fran all the time. Do they care over there?
You know what? Well, I've actually been with Highway Patrol. We found a pound of marijuana in the trunk of a car, and they check to see if the guy has the right cards, and if he does, he gets to go.
That was it. Yeah.
Since you brought that up, I have to say this because it just shows how things have changed. Because a long time ago, if you had one little joint, you were federalized nowadays. I mean, federalized right now is if you go through the checkpoint with a small joint, they'll hook you up. Mm-hmm. But now you can have an ounce, and it's like you get to bounce. And it's like no one cares anymore. But in Oregon, they've decriminalized. Now, it's not the same as legal, but people seem to think decriminalized means legal. But opium and heroin, and I think it's shrooms, and small amounts are decriminalized. So it's like I can go up to a cop and go, bro, I got less than an ounce. Let me shoot this up real quick. You don't mind, do you? I mean, when I used to do when I first did the thing in San Francisco called it was 420, the 420 event, which was made to try to get them to legalize marijuana. So every year they had this illegal thing called 420 event. And they would go out there and smoke weed every single day. I mean, that one day on the 20th, everybody would just have a big puff up. Then the city goes, okay, you guys are trashing it. So we'll make it so that we'll allow you to do it, but we'll set up booths so that way you don't, trash the place. And so it wasn't the same because it's like, wait, the city's agreeing? How is that the same? But people still showed up. And then when it became legal, they were standing by the chief, one of the captains I know from Park Division. He was standing there and they smoking a big blunt this big right in front of the cop. And I'm going, man, has the world changed?
So crazy. I when I first got to narcotics, 2014, we had everybody filling up the van. Weed. Obviously cocaine, heroin, all that kind of stuff, but it was tons of P's, prisoners, for weed.
Yeah.
But
you looked up for that back then.
Yeah. As I was getting out, when I left, I got hurt in 2019. And so I've been out of narcotics since the end of 2019, November. We were coming across weed like leave it. We just leave it. It is what it is. It's just like, oh, okay. And that's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
I remember.
Now, forget about it.
Yeah. I remember when I did the LAPD show, we did a search warrant on a house, and this was in the evening. This wasn't the morning knock. And we're in the house. I'm in the house with the sound man, and all the cops walk out, and there's like cash on the tables and big things of cocaine and marijuana. And I'm going, this is a setup. They trying to see if we're going to take it. This is a setup. I was like, nope, we're not touching this stuff. Because who leaves? Okay, they left me in a house with drugs, money, and guns. And I'm just sitting there with the sound man, and we're looking at each other going, this is a setup.
Yeah. Well, what the hell?
They trying to set me up.
He did it.
This is like, candid camera. Where's the cameras at?
Yeah. Oh my God. So I want to get into how you became basically an honorary chief, right?
Okay. So way back, we started doing something in the Bay Area where it started with Burlingame Police Department. And we would go out and we would just target bad drivers. And that's what they did. And I joined them. Every time they did one, it was once a month, I would go out with them. It didn't have a name. It was just us going out targeting bad drivers. And it was great for footage, because the way I do my segments, it's like I said, it's not like cops, it's different. It's a learning experience. You learn from what is going on there. You know what the traffic rules are, what they're looking for, and what have you. So then one day they decided to call it STEP, which STEP is an acronym for Saturation Traffic Enforcement Program. So with STEP, they would go out every Wednesday, and it was unique because it was, and this is, I think it was groundbreaking because other states are doing the same thing, other counties in California. So STEP was all the different all the different cities in San Mateo County came together and targeted hotspots in one city. So let's say 4 hours in the morning, we would hit Burlingame, and it would be all the different agencies that would participate from San Mateo County. So we would target motorcycle cops. It was all traffic, and they would go out and they would hit all the bad drivers. And then they went and they would do in the afternoon a different city. So it was 4 hours here, 4 hours there. We take a lunch in between, pre-COVID. It was so successful that the chief of Burlingame said that STEP was, it was, remember, education, enforcement, and engineering. So they were the enforcement, I was the education, and then if it was really bad, we got engineering involved to redesign the road area. There was a reduction of 50% of traffic-related fatalities because of this program.
Oh, wow.
It was, OTS put out stats and says, this program was literally lowering traffic crashes and fatalities in San Mateo County. And we hit it every month, every third Wednesday of the month, we were out there doing STEP. And I mean, I was out there without fail, to the point where my old station was like, we don't want you doing it anymore. You're doing too much of it. And I'm like, how am I doing too much? I'm only doing it once a month, 12 times a year, right? And then they made me stop at one point because they thought I was doing too much. But then the day they made me stop, something big happened. I wasn't there. So then they let me go back again. That's how it works. So then one day I get this phone call, and to give you an idea, so other counties like Santa Clara did the same thing. They had a different name for it. And different counties, they had them in Alameda County. But one day I show up at South San Francisco, and there's this big event going on in there. All the cops all around. It's a lot more cops I've ever seen and more chiefs. I'm like, what the heck's going on? They hand me this huge plaque, and there's a big ceremony. And on the plaque, it shows all the different counties. And if you look behind me, there is the plaque, the biggest plaque on the wall there, and including federal agencies that said that because of my commitment to STEP, that helped bring down fatalities. And that is from the police chiefs and sheriff's association of San Mateo County.
Incredible.
So now to give you some more idea how much input this had or impact it had, was that Santa Clara did the same thing, but they had a different name for it. And I can't remember the name this moment, and they'll be mad at me. But then one day I showed up, and they actually had a street sign named for me called People Behaving Badly and and they didn't actually name a street after me, but they made a street sign that had my name on it, and I have a picture of that. And on the back of it had my full name, Stanley Roberts. It's on my wall over here. I could show it to you, but then it'll mess up the whole shot here. But it's like a regular street sign from Santa Clara County, and they were happy that I was out there too. So now I had San Mateo that invited me, I had Santa Clara that invited me, then Alameda invited me for theirs, and then different agencies would come out and have me join them for their crackdowns, including the biggest one everybody loved was carpool violators. So that's where I became an honorary police chief. And if you ask anybody, go, dude, you're already honorary. We can't do anything. What else can we do for you? And so I said, well, you guys can help me get this business off the ground so I can do it on my own, so people can stop stealing my work. And that's pretty much what's been going on.
Well, actually, since you bring that up, also, I mean, it's got to be an incredible feeling to be deemed an honorary cop. It's really cool. You've done a lot for the community.
It's an honor. It's really an honor because police work is not. It's not. Everybody thinks that cop goes out and is like he directs traffic, he arrests bad guy, but it's a crazy job because you're dealing with the public, and I've learned that when you deal with the public, it's a rough job because the public in itself is you people have this tendency to believe what they see on TV. TV is just it's watered down, it's whitewashed, it's made to look TV-ish. Like when they tell you, just shoot the gun out of his hand. That's special effects. Cops out there's no special effects.
Shoot him in the leg.
I've actually gone through shoot or don't shoot scenarios. Mm-hmm. I've had to do that where in one case, the scenario shot back wooden bullets. And I got shot in the hand and in the chest from these wooden bullets because I believed the guy wasn't a threat until he was. Mm-hmm. And I had, and then there's some cases where I've done it, and they go, "Wait a minute, why are you doing TV? You should be a cop. You already know everything. You basically did 100% on the shoot, don't shoot."
That's awesome. Wow, that's awesome.
So I know when to shoot, when not to. But even if you do know everything happens in a split second. And if a guy has his hands in his sweatpants or in his sweats, you don't know what's in there. You're not psychic. You can't see what's in there. And all of a sudden he shoots through that. Mm-hmm. How do you protect that? Wow, we're human.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's tough. And I'm happy you brought up the fact about funding. You're trying to get this off the ground again to get all your filming back in and do that because you came to Fund the First.
Right.
You came to Fund the First. And I'm going to show you your campaign for a second. Let me share. So you can see my screen. So right here is Stanley Roberts' campaign on fundthefirst.com. Now, for all of you that are aware, fundthefirst.com is the trusted fundraising platform for those who serve. Every campaign is verified by our team through ID.me. Stanley, we were able to verify because he is an honorary police officer, police chief. And we were able to do this campaign for him. He has a goal of $75,000. So far, he has $635 raised. So if anyone wants to help him continue his journey of video ride-alongs with law enforcement, please visit fundthefirst.com. And all you got to do is browse through the campaigns. Here's a quick look at it right here. And actually, I think we have that picture. We have this.
Yeah, there's. So on the other side, it has people behaving badly. But because my old employer stole the trademark, I can't really show that anymore.
Okay.
So the other sign, it said people behaving badly on the other side. And I still have it on my wall. And
misbehaving.
But these are all the people I've dealt with over the years. And I'm still friends with a lot of them. So, this is family to me. And this is like, yeah. So these are my family to me. These are guys I can call up right now and say, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on?"
I like this. They got their sticker on there.
Yeah.
It's good.
So, yep. That's the airport when I was walking through one day. That's Santa Clara I was telling you about. That's, I believe, Alameda. And that's San Mateo.
Awesome. When you come to New York to film something over here?
Oh, I would love to come to New York. But again, it requires me to raise funds. So you go, wait a minute, what do you need the funds for? Well, let's be realistic. 75 is just a minimum goal because hotels, security sometimes, rental cars, equipment, maintenance, all that stuff comes into play. It's not, I wish it was free. I wish I could just do everything for free, but I have to pay for it. Some places like require me to have $1 million worth of security insurance, just in case things go sideways.
Right, of course. No, but listen, Stanley, you're doing an incredible thing, and I think it's great that you're voicing, what law enforcement does, doing the ride-alongs. It's something that's needed. People need to see that. And again, not to get into politics, it's great to have it out there. It really is, because it's not politics. People look at it as politics, but it's not. It needs to be out there.
I tell you what, my ride-alongs educate the public, and I'm actually having a meeting next month with a group of police chiefs to discuss possibly doing stuff in different cities in another city, another state, because I have people who are against what I'm doing. And believe it or not, there are people who don't want me to show the police in the light that I show them, and they want me to show the cops, they want me to show them when they're doing something wrong. And I told people that I'm not going to, if you go with the flow, at the end of the river, it's a big ocean and you're drowned out. I like to swim upstream. I like to go against the flow and show you what's different and how we do it differently. So my goal is to get out there and it's not just showing cops, but it's educating people, because I've had people tell me over and over again, because of your segments, I've become a better driver, or because of your segments, I've learned that not to do this anymore. And it's not about crime. My segments aren't about crime. They're just about how law enforcement does their thing and how you can avoid, like people say, oh, it's just for money. Cops are doing it to raise money. You know what I always say? They make the city go broke. Quit misbehaving.
Quit getting caught misbehaving.
Well, that's the important thing. You don't get caught on camera.
Yeah. So yeah, let me ask you something. Everything you've done in your career, from unfortunately not becoming a police officer, but then to having a successful video career, would you do it all again? Would you take the same steps and do everything again?
If I had every chance to do everything again, I would have. The only thing I would have done differently was to make sure that I hired an attorney to procure my trademarks for what I was doing before, because people are stuck on that name, the old name. They refuse to believe that I'm not doing that name anymore. They want me to be back there. That's the name. And I don't care what you do. You're always going to be people behaving badly than me. And I'm like, you have to get over that. We've changed names. We have to rebrand. If I could change anything, my change would be to secure that information in advance. I love what I do. I'm kind of glad I didn't become a cop, because the politics of being a cop nowadays is so brutal.
Yeah.
You're almost like and I hate to say it, but they treat cops almost like, so badly now. And it's like, and they want to blame. And every time there's a bad incident of a cop, my email and inbox gets filled up. People going, see, why are you supporting cops? And the funny part is, I've never said I support or don't support. I just do segments that highlight the cops. Right. But because it's not a negative story that I'm therefore in support, it doesn't matter if I'm supporting. My whole thing is to get out there and work with these guys and show people what really goes on in the world.
Mm-hmm. No, that's important. No, that's good. It's really good. So before we run out of time, I got 2 extra questions that I want to ask you. So an important question. I think you're going to have a great answer for this because of what you've done throughout your career. And I like to ask this because this is the Heroes First podcast. So what does a hero mean to you?
A hero to me is a person who goes out every day. And cops would never want to say they're a hero. They say that's their job. They do this. But to me, a hero is anyone who puts themselves out there to protect someone else's life or safety. If you see something, do something. You don't have to be involved to be a hero. You can pick up the phone and make a phone call. That is being a hero to me. Being a hero to me is if you see something, if someone drops their money and you pick it up and give it back to them, to me, you're being a hero, because you didn't keep the money. You didn't put it in your own pocket and say, screw you guys. If you see something, say something. That makes you a hero. If you see someone who needs help, if you don't want to get personally involved, pick up the phone. That makes you a hero. If that's your job, do your job and do it, do it so that when you go home at the end of the day, you're proud of what you do. If you don't feel proud of what you do, then find another career. And that to me is what makes somebody a hero, is to be involved. And you can be a hero in some kid's life. You could, my whole thing is to talk to people and and uplift them and try to make them realize that there's better things in life than just what they're trying to do.
Of course.
And that's what makes you a hero.
Of course. No, that's great. Great answer. So last question, and answer this with the first thing that pops to your head.
$12.
That's interesting. If you were to have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I already have a superpower.
What's that?
My superpower is to get people to admit their sins.
Oh,
I kid you not. Some people say, you're the only person I know that can make someone confess right on camera that they did something wrong. And at the end of the thing, they say, I got caught misbehaving. That's my superpower. But if I had another one, I would like to be invisible.
why?
Because then I could watch human nature without them knowing they're being watched.
Okay. It's always a good
And
answer.
human nature is astonishing if you keep an eye on it and you watch it closely.
Oh, yeah.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, this is the reason why aliens would ever invade Earth. It's because of human nature. They're like, don't go nowhere near that planet.
Oh man. So Stanley, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. It's always
Thank
great.
you.
I'm sorry we ran out of time so quick. Jeez. Went fast. But for all of our listeners and everyone joining in with Heroes First Podcast, thank you for joining, and we'll see you all next time. Stanley, again, thank you so much.
Hey, Robert, thank you. I appreciate it. And you have a good day, sir.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
You've been listening to the Heroes First Podcast with Robert Garland. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, share, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, make sure to visit fundthefirst.com and follow us on social media at fundthefirst. See you next time.